Hello, surfers online, and today we're going to have a discussion on building blocks to effective partnerships. So, this is from the site Learning Library of the United Nations um, Department of Economic and Social Affairs, TPI, the Partnering Initiative, and Partnership Accelerator 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And our topic is building blocks of effective partnerships. So, for partnerships to deliver as effectively as possible, there are a set of four key building blocks that need to be developed and continuously. The building blocks are distilled from the success factors for partnership highlighted by multiple organizations over many years. The first one is fundamentals. This is the basis for a partnership in the first place. Second, partnership relationship. Third, structuring and setup. And the fourth, management. In practice, they are not a series of separate items to tick off in a sequence. Rather, they are a set of connected ideas to keep returning to during the partnering life cycle. Just as physical building needs to be maintained through regular attention to different parts that can go wrong at any time, the drainage, the windows, the roof. So partnership should be maintained through paying regular attention to these critical ideas. And of course, it is easier and cheaper to fix a problem before it occurs. While in a world of infinite time and resource, all the elements of all the building blocks would be put in place from the beginning. A pragmatic balance is essential. What's important is for all partners to be aware of the building blocks, agree which are the most essential depending on the level of complexity of the partnership, and commit to continually monitoring and improving on them as the partnership continues to develop and iterate. In some cases, you may be working with a partnership that is already underway and not considered one or more of the building blocks. In these cases, they will need to be retrofitted with partners collectively working to assess the current situation and put in place measures to build stronger foundations for the partnership. While the building blocks are presented separately for the sake of clarity, they are strongly interconnected and all refer to the same central challenge of working with and within a complex, changing, and often ambiguous operating environment. So, making partnerships work, we have the ability to lead with a vision and bring people with you along the way, the dedication to drive partnership forward despite the challenges, the courage to take risks and push your organizational boundaries, the commitment to continuously solve problems and not take no for an answer, and the bravery to have difficult conversations both with your partners and inside your organization. While partners are key to the delivery of the sustainable development goals, partnerships are not appropriate in all circumstances and contexts. The fundamentals for partnership need to be in place. 1.1 Significant added value in comparison with the resources required. 1.2 Inclusion of all key stakeholders holding essential resources. 1.3 Compelling shared overarching vision with sufficient alignment of interests to deliver net benefit to all partners. 1.4 Sufficient compatibility of values in relation to the closeness of collaboration. 1.5 Partners are sufficiently empowered and able to be able to contribute to the partnership. 1.6 Senior level commitment and representatives have a partnering mindset and skills set. The bottom line, partnerships must be able to create A significant value and the right partners at the table must be included to be successful. Number two, partnership relationship. Partnerships are driven by a complex and ever changing relationship among the partners. Strong, trust based relationships can overcome the inevitable challenges of partnering, help partners to go the extra mile, and deliver extraordinary results. Partnerships where the relationship is poor will deliver suboptimally or fail. The key elements of partnership relationship are 2.1 trust and transparency, 2.2 power, balance and equity, 2.3 mutual benefit, 2.4 accountability and commitment. The bottom line, the complex, multifaceted, dynamic relationship among partners must be kept strong. Number three, structuring and setup. Every partnership has its own unique structure and setup, governance, management, operational, and reporting arrangements to deliver effectively. The key elements of the structure and setup are 3.1 legal fiduciary arrangement, 3.2 governance, management, and operational structures, 3.3 partnership documentation, 3.4 theory of change, 3.5 funding and resourcing. The bottom line, the partnership structure should be fit for the purpose. Number four, management and leadership. Managing partnership goes well beyond typical project management, requiring the ability to manage the contributions of multiple organizations with line management control, as well as managing the relationship between partners. It also requires different forms of leadership to ensure partnerships are successful. Partnership management and leadership includes the following elements. 4.1 Leadership. 4.2 Results oriented project management. 4.3 Risk reduction and troubleshooting. 4.4 Monitoring, review, and iteration. 4.5 Communication. 4.6 Learning and knowledge sharing. 4.7 Relationship management. The bottom line, the partnership should be well managed and requires the application of leadership at multiple levels. This time around, going to hear partnership insight. This is a conversation about power dynamics in partnerships. Let's try to play this audio. It's based from SoundCloud to play.
As part of this series of Partnership Insights, we're about to hear from Sarita Segal on the topic of power. Sarita is a partnering and development specialist with 20 years of international experience within the United Nations, NGOs, and the private sector. One of the great things about Sarita, as you'll hear in this conversation, is her fearless exploration of some really complex topics. For example, her work at UNAIDS in Namibia involved partnerships in some incredibly politically sensitive discussions relating to reproductive and sexual health. The issue of power was present at many levels in these partnerships, and Sarita brings some brilliant insights. I started off by asking Sarita how partnerships with a healthy balance of power can allow open and frank exploration of difficult topics. These could be to do with funding or positioning, or they could be to do with more politically sensitive areas. The principle is the same.
When I think about the partnerships that I was involved in, especially when working for UNAIDS in Namibia, a lot of them were really about supporting communities and addressing issues that were quite contentious and quite sensitive, such as discrimination against sex workers so that they couldn't access their reproductive health rights or services, such as access to youth-friendly services for young people, LGBT rights because there are discriminatory laws in the country. And And so these types of issues, they were all related to HIV, which is why we were looking at them. And our strategy was to actually build partnerships and coalitions with government, but also with end funders, but also with the organizations of these affected communities. And in that regard, it was always really important to make sure that the affected communities were at the table, that they were empowered. But to desensitize the issue, what we tried to always do was to really focus on the data and to bring the evidence to the table, ensure that it was bottom up and that it was really connected to the communities, and that the communities themselves had the capacity and the ability and also the platform to actually speak on their own behalf, whether it was young people active or advocating for their rights, or whether it was sex workers who were actually explaining what challenges they face when they try to access health services. And what we found was that by working together and bringing different partners together, and especially bringing different NGOs together or community-based organizations, you could sort of build coalitions that helped to ensure that these partners who would definitely be considered having lesser power could actually become aware of the power that they did have by presenting the data and presenting the evidence.
Being driven by data and evidence, rather than things like emotion or rumour, is as important in partnerships as everywhere else. But how do you be evidence-led when your partnership is funded by a single, large, powerful donor with their own political interests?
When it comes to partnering with a big donor, it's always really challenging because, most partners always feel that the organization that has the money is the one that's in charge. But in reality, the organization that has the money also needs these other partners in order to be able to deliver on whatever outcomes they're trying to achieve, right? And I think what's really important is to facilitate the understanding that these other partners, these implementing partners, or these NGO, or these partners of affected communities, or the government itself, has a lot of power and actually knows much better what's happening in their country than the big donor may know. It's about strengthening communication. It's about asserting other types of power than money, in terms of power within communities, among traditional leaders. They have a lot of power. The power that you have to actually stop something from happening. I've seen that happen in partnerships that I've been researching on, where the communities can actually just stop the whole project because they have that power to do that. And it's becoming aware of the power and enabling the lesser powerful players to understand their own power, because once they understand it, then they're better at asserting it.
This is a great point about closing the gap between those with the power and those without, making sure that those who are closest to the problem that a partnership is set up to solve are those who are really listening to.
Another really interesting example related to power balances, and especially in relation to donors, was when I was working in South Africa on health system strengthening and HIV treatment outcomes. And one big donor came in and was only had enough funding, or wanted to target its funding only on certain districts that had more HIV prevalence and incidence. And the government said, no, but we've got to support all the districts, and we need to achieve these goals in all the districts. And that pushback helped to initiate, or helped to galvanize support from other partners, including the UN, which then led to a much broader national sort of effort that brought all the partners on